Hello, welcome. Today I'll be showing you, I'll be teaching you exceptions on Python and how to handle some errors. Actually, exceptions are built-in functions on Python, and all the exceptions must be instances of classes, and are derived from base exception. It means that in a try statement with an except clause that mentions a particular class, the class also handles an exception classes derived from that class. Okay, so let's assume that we have an x equal to input, let's say enter a number or what's the value of x, just like that. What's the value of x? So we expect the value of x to be an integer, okay, to be a number. And let's say for somehow we forgot to put the double quotes here, and if you run this program, we check that there's an error, syntax error. Okay, so the syntax errors is entirely to the programmer to handle it. There's nothing to do about it. Okay, so to solve this problem, I just have to look at the line 3, where is my code, and then the string was not was underterminated. Okay, so I have to finish my string putting the double quotes here. So if I run again, I'll get what's the value of x. Let's say value. Okay, what's the value of x? Okay, so let's now print from this. Let's say print from the user input. Let's print the value of x is, okay, is x. Okay, so if I run the same program, seems like everything goes well. What's the value of x? I put 5. Okay, the value of x is 5. Okay, now imagine if one user who does not understand the code and is not seeing the code, and if he's asking what's the value of x, and somehow he writes dog, and then there's an error here. Okay, so exceptions comes to handle this type of errors. Call it value error. Okay. So that's here. If you can see here, there's the value error saying I invalid the return for integer with base 10 dog. So dog is not an integer, that's the input value of the user. So how to handle this error? To handle these errors, we have to know how the exceptions work. So for that, we have to put try. Okay, so it means we are actually trying to see if it goes well. Try what? Try all of this. So not try, it's a function, and then x and print must be inside try. I try this function, and then I have to put one exception, except value error. Okay, so it means try this except value error. If I get the value error, then I have to print let's say x is not an integer. Okay, x is not an integer. So always the try comes up with an exception, meaning that in all try statement with an exception clause that mentions a particular class of that type of error that is handling. Okay, except value error. Okay, and if I run this, now what's the value of x? It's asking, it's 5. Okay, let's run again. What's the value of x? If I write dog, then it say x is not an integer. Okay, so we already handled this type of value error, but we still have one problem here. Okay, it's just giving us x is not an integer. It should ask again what's the value of x. Okay, so trying many times to get the response from the user. So from that, we have to mix our problem, or we have to include in our problem a loop question. Okay, some loops I have to include it, and how to include it, I have to just to say while this is true, it has to break and to print again that question, what's the value of x. So it should be while true, or true always with the capital letter. Try this. Okay, while true try this. Except value error, and then print x is not an integer, and then else, that's we're putting our else should break. Break means should repeat it and print our answer. Here should be the value of x is x, means that should not be here, otherwise we should get another type of error. So meaning break, and then should print the value for x is x. And then if you run this, we have a syntax error. Remember when I said syntax errors are up to you to handle it, but let's look. It's pointing to the line 2. Line 2 is syntax errors. There are 2 points here which we do not put. Let's run again. We have what's the value of x. Let's put dog. We have another error, name error. X was not defined. We're getting an error here. Look, if we put an integer 6, it just runs. It means but if we put here dog, it gives us an error, a name error. That's not type of error. We'll talk about it in the next videos. Well, they're saying that x is not defined. Okay, then if x is not defined, it means we can actually create or define a function. Let's say we define a function here. Let's say get integer. Okay, get integer. Let's say define that function, get integer points. Now we'll have something like that, and then all these will pass through here. This thing will pass through here. That will pass through here. That will pass through here. This print is inside. It inside except. Okay, except this value error should print this. And then we'll define our function here. But we have as well to define our main function. Okay, let's define main 2 points, which should be x is equal main x is equal to get integer of something, and then print should actually print x. The value of x is x. Okay, should print here the value of x is x. That's the x defined that are actually defined there. It's not. Okay, should print the value of x is x, and then let's say that does not exist. So it will run define. That's our function. Okay, get integer. Our get integer is actually a function that defines the x, so we don't have that name error again. Now let's look here if there's something that can change. So let's say while true, try this. What should it try? Should it try this? Okay, but instead actually of writing this, we can actually return. We can return the integer of x. Okay, that integer. So it means I should come here, the integer of x, that's our value for x, should return here, and then we can accept our value error, and then instead of break it or putting in conditional else, we can actually pass. So we get rid of this and we call back our main function. Don't forget always to call back your main function. If we run this, now we can go with the value of x 6. Okay, the value of x is 6, and what's the value of x? Let's say the user puts dog. It asks again what's the value of x, you put cat, what's the value of x, it will keep asking because there's a while true which is loop function, will keep asking until the user puts the value of x has a number. So that's it for today, and thank you.